Hey guys, this podium was for me, not y'all. I'm going to move these around a little bit. I'm Mitch Tyner, lead counsel for the Chris McDaniel Challenge. I thank you for coming out today. I want to say thank you very much to the supporters back here that came out to support. That came out to show their support not only for Chris McDaniel, but to show their support for election integrity. Thank you so much for coming out Monday before last, the day that we entered into the courthouses and we began this process for the election challenge. We've been doing a lot of work since that time, and we kind of wanted to update you on that work. And one of the lawyers that's been involved and on the team for the McDaniel Challenge is Senator Michael Watson, and Michael's going to take the first step and let you know what we've been doing and the procedure that we've been going through.
Thanks, Mitch. And let me echo Mitch. Thank you for being here today, especially the supporters. It's because of you that we are where we are right now, so I really appreciate you being here. I want to clear one thing up that's really kind of been misconstrued, and the media has reported and continues to say that this election challenge is going forward. This is not a challenge right now. Understand that. This is a process by which is afforded to the candidate through both code as well as case law, and is well founded in Mississippi. What we are doing right now is it's in the code section 23-15-911, and it's a full examination of election materials. That's very important. And what you need to understand and how you boil that down, what does that mean? What it is, it's a look under the hood of the election process in Mississippi. That's an important right given to a candidate. It's important for a lot of different reasons. In his role as a candidate, Chris also serves an integral role in the understanding of a checks and balance system put into play in the elections process here in Mississippi. One of the cases that we have cited in several of our legal arguments that's well-founded and has been cited in almost every election challenge since 1940s here in Mississippi. It's a Sarton v. Barlow case. Again, it's a bedrock election law case, and one of the things that it stands for, that it emphasizes, is not only does the candidate have a right to review the materials, but he also has a duty to act as a check to the integrity of the system. What does that mean? Understand this, there are a lot of people that play parts in the election process. You've got poll workers, you've got poll managers, you've got executive committee members, you've got election commissioners, you've got circuit clerks. A lot of people play a role in that. If those same people that are playing a role in the election process understand, you know what? Somebody might come behind me and check my work. It's pretty important that I get this right. And if those same people don't understand that there may be somebody coming behind me and check, they may just kind of waver a little bit. They might not do their job officially and properly as it should be. So understand, Chris plays an integral role in the elections process, and that's what we are doing. The process affords us this right under 23-15-911. I want to tell you a little bit of a story. As many of you know, we've been in a few circuit courts here lately. I've argued several writ of mandamus petitions and have had some really good success, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But when one of the circuit clerks was being served the other day, I actually had to go down to the convention on the coast. And I was talking to another circuit clerk who had given us full access to all the election materials, including the poll books, which we'll talk about a little bit later. And she said, Michael, what are y'all doing? What's going on here? And I said, you know what? I'm glad you asked that, because not many people do. All they say is they're challenging an election. That may come, but that day is not here right now. You cannot get to the point of challenging an election without a full examination of the election materials. So I said, let me talk a little bit about the process here to you. What's happening right now is that Chris and his authorized representatives are going to all 82 counties, and they're looking at the process. Was the law followed? Did people properly do their job? If they didn't, can we uncover that? Once you're able to find all those things out, it makes the basis for a challenge either rightful or wrong. So that's what we're doing right now. She said, really? I said, you know what? I want to take this a step further. If Chris does not find enough evidence to mount a challenge to this election, he won't do it. That stunned her. That just shocked her. She said, are you serious? Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Again, what he's doing right now is an integral piece and playing an integral role in the election process here in Mississippi. She said, well, that makes sense. I said, you're absolutely right. That makes sense. She said, every candidate should be able to go back and look at the process to make sure the law is followed. I said, thank you. I'm glad the light bulb has gone off. You're right. And that is what we are doing. To the officials out there who are standing in the way of that process, shame on them. Shame on them. You're tired. We're tired. Everybody's tired. Understand, we've had to go to all 82 counties here in Mississippi. Understand, we have had to comb through roughly 400,000 votes from June 24th. Understand, we've had to comb through another 100,000 votes from June 3rd. That takes a while. Under 2315-911, we're given 12 days to do that. You can't rightfully do that in 12 days when the Secretary of State stands in your way, when other circuit clerks stand in your way. So we've had to go to the court to ask for relief. That's why you've seen us in courts across this state. Now, last Friday, we argued in Harrison County. We won a little bit and we lost a little bit. Yesterday, I argued in Jackson County. It was a huge win. Well, let me tell you this. I want to say one thing, and I don't think the judge would mind me saying this, but we have to get in front of the judge quickly because, again, you have a 12-day window. That's why we filed writ of mandamus. And I was leaving, and I said, Judge, thank you. And I was trying to say thank you for hearing us so soon. Thank you for, allowing us to come into your court. He said, there's no thanks needed. I just follow the law. Amen. I want to say this too. This is much bigger than Chris McDaniel. This is much bigger than Senator Thad Cochran. What we are doing right now ensures that the integrity of the election process and the system by which we elect our representatives, our senators, our governor, every other office there is kept clean and honest from here on. Understand that. What it's also done is given us an opportunity to talk about a lot of issues, a lot of inconsistencies that we want to talk about and that we need to talk about. First and foremost is the election code. It's got some holes. In some places, it's a nightmare. And as an elected official, as a state senator, thank goodness that I've gone through this process because now I see a lot of the places where we need to do some work. And we will do some work. I pledge that to you. Another thing that it's given us a chance to talk about are accusations of illegal activity. You've seen them from the north to the south, from the east to the west, all across this great state. A lot of these accusations are very disappointing. They're hurtful. And just downright make me angry. And so another thing that we're doing right now through this review of election materials and review of the process is being able to hear these accusations and launch investigations to see, are they true? Are they false? Is there enough material, enough evidence out there to prove these? And if so, then we need to include them in our challenge if we decide to mount one. Another thing that has really been brought to light through this is the issue of race baiting in politics. That's gross. That is, that's hurtful. You know, the progress that we've made, and especially my generation, to see the barber machine and these PACs do what they did in this election spits in the face of the progress we've made. We've got to address that. I'm a realist. We've got a long ways to go. There's a lot of work to be done. But to see the microphone drop and folks who call themselves conservative Republicans tear this state apart is wrong. And we're going to put an end to it. Lastly, I want to talk about where we are right now in the legal process. Again, we filed writ of mandamus in several courts across this state. The ruling in Harrison County on Friday led us to appeal to the Supreme Court. And at the end of the day, if I could boil that down, what does that mean? It's basically whether or not we are forced to pay to review the poll books. Now, understand this. I think everyone here knows that when you walk in and you go vote, there are a few things that play a role in the elections process that you can't do without. The poll book, a ballot, a sign-in sheet, those type things. And for anyone, Secretary of State or clerk, to say you're not granted access to the poll books is in direct violation of a full examination of the election materials, period. I want to close with this, and this is a public policy argument that will spin from this decision of our Supreme Court. Take a hard-working Mississippian, and he or she decides to run for a state office. And God forbid that he or she loses by fraud alone. And then take that candidate and tell them, okay, not only do you have to go to all 82 counties, not only do you have to comb through every vote that was cast, but you've also got to come up with a whole lot of money to look at the poll books. Is that right? No. Unbelievable. That goes and flies in the face of every hardworking Mississippian in this state who has a desire to make this state better, and that's wrong. Those are the things we're fighting right now. Those are the things we're taking a look at. Those are the things that this process is set up to uncover. And I thank God, that Chris has stood to this challenge. And I'm thankful for all the volunteers that have canvassed these 82 counties. Wouldn't happen without you. So thank you. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Mitch. He's going to cover a few more things.
Again, I want to say thank you to the media that came out today. Michael did an outstanding job of telling you some of the hurdles that have been placed in front of us in trying to simply ensure election integrity. You guys in the media know exactly what we're talking about. How many times have you tried to get documents from some government agency and they put up roadblocks every step of the way? You guys in the media should be painfully aware of how unfair that is. That is what we faced with many of our clerks. Throughout Mississippi, we've had to file approximately 20 motions for writ of mandamus. How many people can really afford to do that if they lost a close election? Not many, I tell you. That's wrong. It's not right. It's not fair, and it's got to stop. That's why we have gone to the Supreme Court. Rather than fighting this in every single county, we want the Supreme Court to rule. And we want the Supreme Court to say, yes, the candidate has an unfettered right to see all of the election materials that were produced in the election. This is much bigger than the United States Senate race, and it is much bigger than Chris McDaniel. This affects every voter in Mississippi. And unless we root out the problems in the election system, every one of your votes gets diluted. We are committed to doing that. The evidence is still coming in. Literally tens of thousands of pages have already been produced. And let me stop for a minute and tell you also, thank you to the clerks who came in and opened their books and said, take a look in the ballot boxes, and said, we think you have the right to do that. Thank you to every one of the clerks that did that. Thank you. Almost 60 of our clerks did that, gave us unfettered access. Thank you very much. Thank you for the hard work you did. And it came at a terrible time for some of these clerks because they had all gone to a convention on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. And one of the responsibilities of the clerk is they must put one of their deputies with the people we have reviewing. That's part of the integrity process, and it's an integral part. And thank you to the clerks that made sure that there was a deputy there and that we were able to look at these records. The million-dollar question, what did we find? That's why you're really here. We found a lot. We've heard it our entire lives in Mississippi. Votes are being bought. Ballot boxes are being stuffed. There are false affidavit ballots. They're invalid affidavit ballots. They're invalid absentee ballots. We've heard it our whole life. Personally, I'm 51 years old. It's the first time I saw it up close and personal. And it exists. And we are committed to finding it and rooting it out and stopping it. Thank goodness we got people like Michael. Thank goodness we have senators like Michael Watson, who is also seeing this up front and personal and can do something about it in the next legislative session. While I brag on Michael for a minute, let me tell you something he didn't tell you. There's been one lawyer out of a group of 3 of us that have been working day and night to ensure election integrity. And another one's, he's currently reviewing materials right now, and that's why he's not here. And that's Steve Thornton. But of the 4 motions that have been heard, Michael Watson made the argument on all 4 of them. Of the 4 that have been heard, Michael Watson was on the side of right, and in every single case, the judge said, yes, you're entitled to review the materials. Only one of them said that there would be a cost imposed on the candidate. And that's the issue we want to make sure that the Supreme Court rules on, that it doesn't matter how much money you have, you still get to look at the poll books. The categories of information that we've been finding, they're crossover votes. We know that. There's illegal votes, all types of illegal votes going on, absentee problems, votes that were cast. We're going as far as into the boxes to see if how many people signed in are the same number of votes that were cast. You're going to be astonished. They aren't. It's amazing. You see problem after problem after problem. Am I going to sit right here and try my case in the media and do a tit for tat with the Cochran campaign? We found this, no, but it says that. And we're not going to do that. We're going to be mature about this. We're going to put it all together in a complete package. I really was in hopes we'd have it today, because Monday a week ago I was sure that we would, but I didn't know we'd run into this many problems. We're going to get that together, and at the same time that we file a challenge, we're going to give you a complete copy of it. We're not only going to give it to you guys in the media, we're also going to give a copy of it to the U.S. Attorney, to the Federal Elections Commission, and we're also going to give it to the Attorney General of the state of Mississippi. I want to sum this up by saying, once again, this is much bigger than a U.S. Senate race. It's much bigger than a candidate, Chris McDaniel. I praise Chris for not throwing in the towel. Yeah. The conventional wisdom is out there. Everyone knows he was a very popular candidate. Everybody knows that he could have conceded and written his ticket for any office next year. But Chris McDaniel said, no, I want to root out the problems. I want integrity in this process, and if it destroys my political career, so be it. That's the kind of candidate that we need for every elected office in Mississippi, as well as inside the Beltway. All right. That concludes the things that we wanted to talk about. Michael and I both will accept some questions from him.
The question I want to ask, Michael says this is an investigation. You say when we present our findings, have you found enough evidence, in your opinion, to warrant a legal challenge of this election?
So it's a great question, and yes, there's already enough evidence to file the challenge.
Does that include enough crossover votes to match the number of votes that Mr. Cochran defeated Mr. McDaniel by?
I'm not going to go into the specifics of everything, but crossover votes is a big part of our challenge.
Do you have any kind of vote threshold for how many you're looking for to feel confident when you do go before a judge?
No, there's not necessarily a vote threshold. And if you remember in the last press conference, we talked about that. The standard in Mississippi says that if there's enough doubt that's placed whether or not the will of the people has been done. And so there's really not a vote number threshold.
Okay. Michael can answer this question with you. Michael, what would you say to critics who say we didn't hear these types of objections in the primary when Chris was the winner?
That was such a compressed time frame. Obviously, we were all tired. We felt like we were going to win that day. We felt like we had a path forward to go on and do it. And I think one of the things that I would point you back to, that some of the things that we are seeing now weren't so evident then. Perfect example, I think the Wall Street Journal did a story the other day on, 250-something missing votes. Things like that were, you just couldn't find them that quickly, and they weren't that evident. But now that we're finding all these other things, like Mitch said, we always grew up hearing about these things, and you hear about the good old boy system. But until you see it up close and personal, not until then does the alarm and the alerts go off. Whoa, wait a minute. We need to let's take a step back and take a look.
One of the concerns came yesterday.
Let me help answer that too.
Please go ahead.
One of the things that came out, and the truth is, there was no in-place legal team after the primary, and so call us naive. Call Chris McDaniel naive. He had no idea that this amount of election fraud was going on, even in the primary. I received a call yesterday from a precinct in Biloxi where a man and his wife both voted for Chris McDaniel in their precinct. It's reported out of that precinct from the primary that there were 0 votes cast for Chris McDaniel in that precinct. If I had known that right after the primary, you betcha we'd have been all over it, just like we're all over it today. And I think that would have made the difference. In my heart, I believe Chris McDaniel won the primary, and a runoff was not necessary.
Do you think it's fair then to still refer to this, or have been referred to by the McDaniel camp, as a sham election, considering that's kind of a widespread indictment seemingly of the state?
It is a widespread indictment, and I'm not comfortable with that, Scott. What I will say is the activities of the Cochran campaign are abhorrent.
Right.
The Cochran campaign, through their race baiting, and let me tell you something, this is United States senators, this is coming from the top down, took Mississippi back 50 years in race relations. Michael Watson will tell you, as a conservative white man in the Mississippi legislature, his fellow black senators have a level of discomfort when they begin to deal with him. And over the years, he's been able to work with them and make them realize that we are not 50 years ago in our race relations. The Cochran campaign, through race baiting, took us back 50 years. It is wrong. You know what's even more appalling is it wasn't just here on the local level and the Barber Boys. This was inside the Beltway. United States senators contributed money for ads to call Chris McDaniel a racist, and to motivate black Democrats through a hatred to come out and vote for Thad Cochran. That's wrong. That is absolutely wrong. Okay. Okay.
Can I say one more thing on that?
Okay. I'm sorry.
And he just opened the door, and I've got to close the door. To have all of those people donate and to see what happened with their money, and then to not see them now come out and say, "Dear God, you improperly used my money." Where is Reince Priebus? Where is the Republican Party? Where is the leadership that comes out and says that was wrong and that will not happen again? That's my question.
Okay. Great. That's a great question. We expect to file a challenge within the next 10 days.
Yesterday, Pete Perry.
Let's see if we have some other questions. Scott, give me a second. Anybody else besides Scott?
I have the same question as him.
Yes, ma'am.
About Pete Perry's comments.
Okay. Yes. Go. All right. What?
Is it true that y'all only found 350 ineligible votes in Heights County?
That's a great question. The numbers we're going to disagree on. There's no doubt about that. But when I've read what the Cochran people put out, is that there were, quote, only about 1,000 illegal votes. The first thing I think is, where's the outrage? Where's the outrage for Pete Perry? Pete Perry was in charge of this election. He was supposed to train poll workers to make sure that didn't happen. And by his own testimony, it happened over 300 times. Where is the outrage, Pete Perry? I'm outraged by it, and I'm outraged because I know of the reports. You guys understand now what a poll book swap is. If any of you reporters have been out talking to poll workers, you're going to find out real quickly that the poll workers didn't understand the poll swap. Many of them did not swap the poll books until 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And then the poll workers were so confused, they swapped them back because they saw, oh, wait a minute, this is the Democrat primary, why do I have the Republican book? And they swapped it back on their own. So where is the outrage? They admit to 1,000 illegal votes, and yet they say, oh, well, it's just 1,000, so it doesn't matter. It does matter. Every one of those votes diluted a real vote, and it does matter.
That was the question I was going to ask about the Hinds County News Conference yesterday, and they say the numbers that, and the Cochran people said that they've been there right along with you. The numbers you report, the numbers they find and agree to are far less.
Yeah.
One thing they've been right along with us. I've been to Jackson County a number of times where they are currently reviewing. Matter of fact, we got an additional 12 days yesterday, so they're there today looking at poll books. I know on 2 or 3 occasions a representative from the Cochran campaign was there. I know on other occasions they weren't there. That's personal knowledge. I saw that. So for them to say we've been there every step of the way, that's just not true. It's not accurate.
Some of the questions from those clerks' offices that I noticed in the filings have been about whether or not the birth dates are redacted. Why is it important that the birth dates are there?
That's a great question. The birth dates are there for identification purposes. And most of the time we don't need to see that for the identification purposes. In fact, Judge Krebs made that plain in his ruling yesterday. He said that at the clerk's expense, if you want to cover it up, you can. But if the McDaniel campaign needs to see it in order to make an identification, then you need to reveal it. He also was very careful to say he doesn't want to see pages of those poll books published on social media. And I feel much obliged by Judge Krebs' order not to be publishing that type of thing.
Now, I'll tell you, there was a specific instance that we know about where there was a senior, a junior, and a third. Well, the senior, junior, and the third were left off the poll book. So you had the same name 3 times and the same address. There's no way to tell them apart unless you can see the birthday. And so that's what I presented to Judge Krebs, and he said, that makes sense, perfect sense. So
and the problem we ran into with this, and Jackson County is a good one. I've known the clerk there for 25 years or more, and I don't know why he was motivated this way, but his attitude seemed to change somewhere along the way. And basically, he threatened that if we really wanted to see the poll books, he wanted us to just take his word that there were 24 crossovers in his county. And we said, you know, that's fine, but we want to look at the materials as we're entitled to. And basically threatened us and said, well, then I'm going to charge you to redact the birth date information. It's 14,000 pages, and we can charge $1 a page. So, Mitch, do you want to pay $14,000 to review these poll books? That's not right. And you guys in the media, you understand these issues, because it's not open to the candidate if they're going to put up a $100,000 price tag to review the poll books across Mississippi. All right, thank you very much. I really appreciate you coming out today. Bye.